Jitendra?
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible. We could begin now.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone present over here. Respected dignitaries from
You are not audible, Jitendra.
Jitendra, you are not audible.
You have got hung, I think.
Chancellor, Adamas University, Professor Naveen Das, Vice Chancellor, Adamas University. International Women's Day. This event is organized in collaboration with the British High Commission, Kolkata, India. I also welcome before you eminent speakers who will grace the occasion: Mr. Nick Law, British Deputy High Commissioner in Kolkata; Professor Sushma Yadav, Vice Chancellor, Bhagat Phool Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Sonipat, Haryana; Professor Anuradha Mukhopadhyay, Vice Chancellor, Diamond Harbour University, Kolkata; Ms. Sophie Rose, Deputy Head, Political and Bilateral Affairs, and the Policy Lead for Human Rights, British High Commission, New Delhi, India. Last but not the least, Dr. Nunmun Biswas, social activist and academician, West Bengal State University. This particular occasion reminds me a small poem by Langleaf from Thailand, which refers as Her Time. I present before you the poem, which will be very much relevant to this occasion. She has been falling for a while now, that sense of awakening. There is a gentle rage simmering inside her, and it's getting stronger day by day. She will hold it close to her, she will nurture it and let it grow. She won't let anyone to take it away from her. It's her rocket fuel, and finally, she is going places. She can feel it down under her core. This is her time. She will not only climb mountains, she will move with them now. So this is the significance of today, not only to uphold women, but also their preparedness, their perspective, be it a woman and a girl, acceptance to their diversity, and their integration in the formulation and implementation of policies, programs in all spheres of life. With this opening remark and the theme of today's program, Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in COVID-19 World, I hand over to Professor Mrityunjay Chatterjee, Dean School of Liberal Arts and Cultural Studies, Adamas University, Kolkata, to welcome the guest. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Nick Law, Deputy High Commissioner, British Deputy High Commissioner in Kolkata. On the onset, let me inform you that our Chancellor, Professor Shomit Rai, has got some kind of a health issue and could not join today's meeting. Our leadership will be represented by Professor Dr. Naveen Das, Vice Chancellor of the University. So I would now request Mr. Nick Law and Professor Naveen Das to formally inaugurate this event. Mr. Nick Law, please. You are muted. Yeah.
Please tell me you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you, right.
Okay, marvelous. Thank you so very much. Okay, Vice Chancellor, Professor Das, Professors Yadav, Mukhopadhyay, and Chatterjee, Dr. Biswas, and my own dear colleague, Sophie Ross. Namaskar, namaste, namaskara, assalamu alaikum. Very good afternoon to all of you, and a very happy International Women's Day. Thank you. And that's a very big and a very sincere thank you. Thank you for inviting the Government of the United Kingdom once again to be your partners in the celebration of International Women's Day. My wife, Carita, and I were reminiscing last night. We have the very fondest memories of being your guests exactly 1 year ago. And the warmth and the kindness you showed us have not been forgotten. My one regret is that we can't be with you physically this year, but if you could bear to have me back for a third time, I will very happily block my diary for the 8th of March next year. I'm also honoured to be asked to speak again because I am self-evidently a man, and in speaking to you, I tread softly when discussing an issue that I acknowledge I can never know and understand as intimately as the women who are listening to me. The inequality that you face is a lived experience that I have never lived and that I shall never, and I'm acutely aware of. But whether I come to you as part of the problem or as part of the solution, or indeed as both, I come with immense goodwill and gratitude. And I want to come with a message of optimism and of hope. Some of you may recall Her Majesty the Queen describing 1992, the year of the death of Her Royal Highness Diana, Princess of Wales, as an annus horribilis. That's a Latin phrase meaning a horrible year. Let's make no bones about it. The last 12 months have been thoroughly horrible. It's not a period that any of us wish to go through again, I'm absolutely sure. But let's not lose sight of what we, the international community of nations, can achieve through our common purpose and our coordinated action. Vaccines have emerged from laboratories at a speed that no one would have thought possible 12 months ago. New medical technologies are coming on stream that have applications not just for the coronavirus family of pathogens, but far beyond. And we are seeing leading members of the family of nations with the United Kingdom and India at their fore come together as a force for good. In the last week, we've seen Ghana and Ivory Coast begin mass vaccinations using the Oxford University, AstraZeneca, Serum Institute of India Covishield, supplied through the World Health Organization's COVAX program. And the story of the second decade of the 21st century has been one of strong and too often unacknowledged progress. People are living longer and healthier lives than ever before. A greater proportion of the world's population is literate than ever. More people, more than 4 million, live under democratic or properly representative governments than ever before. Every single year of the last decade, we lifted another 20 million people out of poverty. And advances in medical science have achieved remarkable things. A 97% effective licensed vaccine for Ebola, which, unlike COVID, had killed 85% of those developing the illness. These are things that were not achieved by accident, nor by a single country, but by the broader international community working together. That was how we ensured that the global financial crisis of 2008 to 9 didn't turn into the prolonged depression that seemed inevitable. Common purpose, joint and coordinated action. The challenges we face, not just building back better from the pandemic, but ending the climate emergency, making sure the development and implementation of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and other technologies benefit us rather than eroding our precious freedoms. And this is particularly salient, the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, to which we have all committed, need that common purpose. Gender equality is a right. Let's never forget that. Gender equality is a right. Fulfilling this right is the best chance we have in meeting some of those pressing challenges of our time. From the balanced, equitable, and inclusive economic growth we need as we rebuild our economies and close the shortfalls in healthcare exposed by the pandemic, to climate change and escalating conflicts. Achieving gender equality and women's empowerment is integral to each and every one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And only by ensuring the rights of women and girls across all the world will we get to the justice, inclusion, economies that work for all, and sustaining our environment both now and for future generations. To paraphrase Charles Dickens, the year of the pandemic has been the best and the worst of times for women. The worst of times, globally, we've seen an upsurge in domestic violence, been dubbed by some as the shadow pandemic. In my country, 1 in every 5 crimes recorded by police during lockdown last year involved domestic abuse. Personally, I find this absolutely abhorrent. Lockdown has been tough, very tough for many. But is there anyone at all, who can rationally explain, far less justify, how beating up your partner can be the product of 6 million years of human evolution. It's been apparent since early in the pandemic that mortality rates are higher for men than for women. That remains the case, but it is women who are much more likely to bear the brunt of the social and economic consequences of the pandemic. And there is an important difference between what comes from being infected and what comes from being affected. Across the globe, women earn less, they save less, they hold less secure jobs, and are more likely to be employed in the informal sector. They've less access to social protections and are the majority of single-parent households. Their capacity to absorb economic shocks is therefore less than that of men. A report by the Institute for Fiscal Studies in my own country found that mothers in the United Kingdom are 1.5 times more likely than fathers to have either quit their job or lost it during the lockdown. And in developing nations, such work constitutes more than 2/3 of female employment. As countries all over the world have locked down, these jobs have quickly disappeared, and that can have catastrophic consequences. In many places, if you're fired today, it means that you don't eat tonight. In March, UNESCO estimated that the pandemic was preventing 1.52 billion children from attending school, and some of those girls will never return. Out of education, girls face a heightened risk of female genital mutilation and early marriage. Schools are a safe environment and protect them from abuse. Make no mistake, ensuring that all girls get at least 12 years quality education continues to be one of the United Kingdom's highest priorities in its development partnerships. I said the best of times. Now, much has been made of the success of women leaders in dealing with COVID. It was reported last summer the countries led by women had suffered 6 times fewer COVID deaths than those led by men. Tsai Ing-wen, Sanna Marin, Katrin Jakobsdottir, and Jacinda Ardern have been lionized, and rightly so, for their country's success in tackling the pandemic. However, subsequent analysis has found no statistically significant differences between COVID fatality rates in countries run by women and those run by men. So what is the good news for women that I'm talking about? I'm going to venture to say that what I'll call a more female style of leadership has made real headway during the pandemic. And I, for one, very much hope that it will stay. I think it deserves to stay. I think it will stay. And what I'm calling a more female style of leadership, where that embeds, then women will follow. Every smart leader watches what other leaders do. And what I've seen many men doing over the last few months is borrowing from the female playbook, which involves being incredibly caring of their stakeholders and upping their communication skills. What I've noticed is traditionally combative, individualistic male leadership styles giving way to a more collective and caring mindset. Female leadership is genuinely different in style and tone. A female playbook, and I think our organization in India was blessed over the last year to have a female leader. A female playbook when it comes to leadership is one that champions empathy. Now, I accept there's always a danger in saying that a trait is entirely female or entirely male, because we're all a mix of both. We have different personalities. But it was something that I witnessed on a daily basis during my previous careers in the National Health Service, which has a predominantly female workforce, and the Metropolitan Police, which is overwhelmingly male. I see women taking a step back and placing themselves in the position of those they lead, or as they might say, in the position of those they work on behalf of. I've been struck by men at the very top of my organization now talking unashamedly of kindness and of how they fit their jobs around their lives rather than the other way around. We work in a world where we've learned to recognize that showing a vulnerability can be a strength when it is used in the right way. If you're willing to be vulnerable, then people are willing to be vulnerable to you. And that's when you get true dialogue and true process. You show people the reality of the world you're living in, and they can empathize with you and support you more. That's the workplace that I want to work in, and I strive to create for my team. I hope that makes at least some sense to you, and I very much look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you very much for inviting me to be your guest this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Low. Thank you for that very energetic, speech of yours, where you touch some very, very vital points of equitable distribution, equality, gender equality, domestic violence, socio-economic equality, and inclusive growth for women. And these perhaps are the most important points that we need to deliver on as I invite our Vice Chancellor, Professor Naveen Das, to address the people. Before that, I would hand it over to Jitendra to please introduce Dr. Das. Jitendra, can you hear me?
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you, sir.
But who is introducing?
Good afternoon, Professor Naveen Das, Vice Chancellor and Dean Academics, Adamas University, Kolkata. Professor Das is a perfect blend of academic and corporate experience. He has done his BTech honors from IIT Kharagpur, PGDM from IIM Calcutta, and PhD from NLU Jodhpur in Calabar, Ghaziabad. Sir has almost a decade of corporate experience, and he held some of the eminent positions like the SBU head in Godrej and Boyce, Kolkata, Vice President Janasoft Inc., United States of America, Vice President Intellectual Capital at Environ Educational Systems, Chennai. In his academic stint spanning more than 2 decades, he held positions like the founding dean and director, IBS Business School at both Hyderabad and Kolkata. He had a stint as an associate director, Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, serving as SHM Knowledge Campus, Kolkata as director, School of Business and Management. Sir, we welcome you to this August gathering. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nayak. A very good afternoon to Mr. Nick Lowe, the British Deputy High Commissioner in Kolkata, and my other learned speakers on the panel today, Professor Sushma Yadav, the Vice Chancellor of Bhagat Phool Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Ms. Sophie Rose, Deputy Head and Political and Bilateral Affairs and the Policy Lead for Human Rights, British High Commission, New Delhi, Professor Anuradha Mukhopadhyay, Vice Chancellor, Diamond Harbour Women's University, Kolkata, and the noted social activist and academician, Dr. Munmun Biswas from the West Bengal State University. I feel enlightened by the short address of Mr. Nick Lowe, where he has painted such a wide brush on this perennial problem that the world is facing. And it was so nice of him to connect the problem with the millennium, or now of course they're called the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the role of women in solving many of the problems that design thinkers normally call the wicked problems of the society. You talk of inequality, you talk of corruption, you talk of crime against vulnerable sections of the society, and I think women have a major role to play in curbing these problems. Well, coming to this special day, obviously to my mind, every day is Women's Day. So having just a special day, I think is doing things too less, but still, almost a century and 10 years of struggle, almost a century and 10 years that we have been celebrating this day, women have not stopped struggling. I think it was very pertinent that Mr. Lowe actually reminded us of the problems and the transgressions that are being perpetrated against the women even today. So with all solemnity and with all responsibility, I stand before you all today to remind us of this great day that has been commemorating the role of women in this world, in making this world a much better place to live in for all of us. In almost all fields of our life, women have already achieved a lot, and much more is expected of them now that people have become conscious. Their achievements raises awareness of the struggle that they have had and they are still facing till today. This is a day to reinforce equity initiatives in all our workplaces, in all our homes, particularly to reduce the gap. Without equal inclusion of women in business, in education, in health, in politics, I think we will not be able to solve the world's most pressing problems and achieve a prosperous and vibrant future. Recently, COVID-19 took us by surprise. And I think one of the most significant consequences of COVID-19 has been the increased household pressures of not only household chore, but also childcare, which fell on the women folk, mostly in developing countries. Unfortunately, we also saw reports of heightened criminality, heightened transgressions against women during the lockdown period, or even till now, in some measure or other, lockdown is still continuing. This has impacted women in particular, leading many to contemplate leaving the workforce altogether. I think we will be a loser. We will be an incomplete workplace without the women folk. It must be our endeavor, all of us who are in education, all of us who are in important aspects of the society, be it health, be it politics, be it corporate, we must do our little bit to ensure that women don't leave us, to ensure that women have an equal footing, a level playing field for them to fructify their talent. Women are, if not more, equally talented as the men folk. And a quicker realization of this is going to make this place a better place, much better place than we have today. Mr. Lowe, just for your information, because many of my Indian friends might be aware of these names, but still in India, let me today reiterate that we have had a legendary history of women in power. We have celebrated womanhood from historical times. All of us, we have read about Gargi, Moitreyi, and such characters. They were exalted souls, they were educated souls, and they were gurus for the whole world. We have heard the stories of Noor Jahan, we have heard the stories of Jhansi Rani, who actually were great administrators. The daughter of India, Indira Gandhi, who was the first women prime minister of this country, Pratibha Patil, who was the first woman president of this country, Sarojini Naidu, who fought during our independence war, our very own Lakshmi Sehgal, who was a compatriot to Netaji Subhas Bose, a very big political leader whom we lost recently, Sushma Swaraj, are just a few names, just almost a random sample of a few names that come to my mind today. In the corporate world, we have heard stories, we are still hearing success stories of Kiran Shaw Majumdar, the biotech queen of India, Indra Nui, who led Pepsi till the other day. And who would forget about Mother Teresa, our own Mother Teresa, who owned the whole world, who almost lapped the whole world on her fragile shoulders, and yet so strong a lady. Sister Nivedita was a sister to the whole world. So with these names, invoking these names today, I think let us remind ourselves that though in terms of absolute figures, the boardrooms of India, the classrooms of India are filled with women. In absolute numbers, the numbers might look staggering. But remember, we are talking of a 1.35 billion country. So instead of going by the absolute numbers, let us focus on increasing their percentage in boardrooms, classrooms, and also in positions of power. From the education front, let us also commit ourselves to have a gender-neutral system of pedagogy. Many of us are trying hard, but I think we still have a long way to go, because unknowingly in the class, we normally give an example of his and not her. Let us also ensure that education, training, awareness raising, information programs, they all address the vulnerability and the risk of gender-based inequalities. And we are a country of inequalities. We know that. Quickly, we have to do something to at least take those baby steps to bridge the gap. We must ensure that an enabling environment for the increased participation of girl students in all our academic and co-curricular activities is the only way of taking those baby steps. Well, Mr. Lowe has already, as I mentioned, talked about wider global issues, global problems where we have a role to play, and let our women folk be partners in arms with all of us to make this world a much more equitable, a much more healthier, happier place to live in. That's the only thing that we owe it to the next generation. Thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Chatterjee, for inviting me for this program, this beautiful, solemn program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Das. I, on the onset, also again, I reiterate that we are very, very happy that British Deputy High Commissioner Kolkata has partnered us for the second successive year, and Mr. Lowe has promised that he's going to block his date for next year. I must also thank a very good friend of mine, Ajita Menon, who has always been a rock solid support for all events that we have done with British Deputy High Commission. I would now hand this event to Jitendra and Pallavi, Dr. Pallavi Srinadas, to take it forward. Jitendra and Pallavi, please.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you, Professor Naveen Das, Vice Chancellor at Adamas University, for highlighting some of the important aspects, not only about the historical facts, but what we are supposed to do to lead, to build a leader and to bring change. Thank you, sir. So we will go with the formal program of the this afternoon. I just got an update that Professor Sushma Yadav, Vice Chancellor Bhagat Phul Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, has some engagement in the what you say, the Secretariat in Haryana. So maybe she will be joining and she will be updating us soon. So we will proceed accordingly. I would now request Ms. Madhurima Dasgupta to introduce Ms. Sophie Ross, Deputy Head and Political and Bilateral Affairs, the Policy Lead for Human Rights, British High Commission, New Delhi. Over to you, Madhurima.
I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Ms. Sophie Ross, who is the Deputy Head of Political and Bilateral Affairs from British High Commission, New Delhi. Ms. Ross has worked as a parliamentary advisor in the Secretary of State's private office at the Department for Education and managed parliamentary handling and stakeholder engagement on the European Union Withdrawal Act at the Department for Exiting the European Union. Most recently, she was also a senior policy advisor at the Department for Education, leading projects to develop policies on community cohesion and faith schools. She was also the co-chair of the Civil Service Jewish Network and a member of the Department for Education's Women's Network Committee. This is Ms. Sophie's first international posting, and previously she studied classics and theology at the University of Oxford. So it is indeed an honor to have Ms. Sophie Ross as one of the key speakers for today. Over to you, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much for that very kind introduction, and thanks to my colleague Ajita in Kolkata for inviting me to speak at this event, which is always a pleasure to speak to university students, especially on my favourite topic of gender equality. I'm just sad that I can't be with you in person in the beautiful city of Kolkata, so that will have to wait some time. But a very happy International Women's Day to you all, which is in fact today, as we all know, and we've all been talking about, and you heard just before from my colleague Nick about the UN theme this year, Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. And actually, I was just thinking about how around a year ago, when many of us left our offices, and I'm sure you left your university as well, and began remote work, and the very interesting impacts that that had on gender roles in our families, amongst our colleagues. I think there've been major challenges, but there've also been opportunities. There's been for families, for example, the opportunity for many men who may not previously have been caregivers to actually spend more time with their children at home. But there have also been major challenges, I know, for female colleagues, especially in terms of balancing childcare and work at home. So I think it's been really interesting, and the opportunity to work more flexibly has also benefited some women in terms of being able to balance their commitments. But we've already heard as well about how sadly women and girls have been disproportionately affected by COVID, and how COVID has actually exacerbated some of the inequalities that have existed. So I think it's been a really interesting time to be looking at gender equality trends globally during COVID-19. The thing that I really wanted to emphasize to you all, as somebody who's working with colleagues like Ajita on gender equality in India, is that really it's a shared challenge all over the world. This is not an issue that just comes up in India. This is a huge issue for us in the UK as well, in terms of, as one of our previous speakers was just saying, in terms of political representation, in terms of barriers that women still face in the workplace. It's a shared global challenge, and that's why it's really important that countries like ours, democracies in the world, can work together on this topic. And I know that's actually the plan, and one of the things that we'll be doing through the G7 that we'll be hosting later this year, and India will be coming along to. One of the key themes in that is going to be around gender equality and girls' education. So that's really exciting. And just to give you a brief flavour of some of the work we're doing here in India with partners such as yourselves, there are lots of different types of UK-India partnerships where we're trying to create really better, safer opportunities for women, not just for women, for everybody, to try and break down the gender norms that exist. Because I think that there has been a lot of progress in both our countries, but there's still lots more to do. Wanted to give just a small example of one that related more to COVID, and then a bigger example of one where I hope that your own university will be able to get involved. So the first one is about an e-rickshaw company that we work with actually in the North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, where they've been upskilling their women rickshaw drivers to spread awareness and information around health and hygiene. And now their sales teams are selling health and hygiene products to curb the spread of COVID among vulnerable communities. So this started off more as a kind of skilling program, and now they've been able to adapt that to try and mitigate against the impacts of COVID-19, which I think is fantastic, and is an example of some of the micro businesses that we support through some of our work in India, and who've been able to tap into new requirements around masks, PPE, sanitizing, this whole new kind of sector that's emerged since COVID, and that's now become a source of revenue for them. The other point I wanted to share was a much bigger initiative actually across the whole country, which we call our Pledge for Progress, which is something that we launched in November last year. And the idea was to get our partners in all sorts of different sectors across India to sign up to five key commitments around gender equality. to take practical steps to try and tackle gender challenges and to share best practice with each other, that type of thing. So if you just Google UK and India Pledge for Progress, you'll be able to see that pledge that we've signed up to, and actually over 120 of our partners in business and education and civil society have signed up to as well, which is fantastic. And this being International Women's Day today, we were thinking, what more could we do practically to actually make a difference in terms of gender equality? What could we do to mobilize this group of this exciting new group of partners across India? We've come up with this new initiative, which I very much hope your university will get involved with, called Speak Up for Progress. So the idea behind this is that senior leaders like Nick, you just heard from, and gender equality champions in all of the different Pledge for Progress partner organisations, we've got people like HSBC on board and Virgin Atlantic, think tanks and all sorts of partners, will deliver a short talk to university and college students like yourselves relating to really any topic on gender equality from their own personal perspective. So it could be about their career journey, it could be how they manage things at home, it could be about relationships, it could be about gender norms, anything that they want, in order to try and share the stories of gender positive role models across a whole range of sectors. So we're working with a great organisation you may know about called Global Youth NGO, who are also one of our Pledge for Progress partners, and they're going to match up all of these senior leaders with universities and colleges so that they can hopefully dedicate 1 hour of their time to deliver a 30-minute talk and then have questions as well about any topic relating to gender equality. So we're going to see through this new programme whether we can try and play a part really in breaking down gender norms and some of the barriers faced by young people in India, and really showcase some role models and share their stories with young Indian people. And very importantly, these talks won't just be delivered by women, but of people of all genders, because gender inequality impacts on all of us. So really hoping that through that new initiative, we'll be able to mobilise as a collective of partners who want to do something on gender equality, and together hopefully we will achieve a step change in building a more gender equal society in the UK, in India, and all around the world. So I hope that gave a glimpse of some of the work that we're doing in India at the moment, and I want to really thank you for this opportunity today and wish you all a very happy International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Carry on, Pallavi.
Thank you, sir. I would request Dr. Disha Thakur to please introduce Professor Anuradha Mukhopadhyay, our next speaker for the program. Nisha, you're unmuted.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, yes, please carry on.
You're fine. Yeah.
Okay, so it's an honor and it's really an honor to have Professor Anuradha Mukhopadhyay ma'am with us today on the occasion of International Women's Day. To give you a brief introduction about ma'am, ma'am is presently holding the chair of Vice Chancellor of the Diamond Harbour Women's University. Before joining as a Vice Chancellor of the University, Diamond Harbour Women's University, she also served as the Vice Chancellor of the Kazi Nazrul University, which is in Asansol, West Bengal. And ma'am has also taught at various institutions, including Yadav University. She has done her graduation from Presidency University, and after that, she also done her post-graduation from Science College, Calcutta University. Then she subsequently worked in the field of X-ray crystallography as an honorary DANIDA Fellow, University of Aarhus, Denmark, and then as a research scholar, University of Sheffield, UK. After that, after completing her PhD from Calcutta University, ma'am has served as a CSIR Fellow from the Indian Association of Cultivation of Science, Kolkata. And after that, ma'am's journey as an academician has not yet ended. We are very lucky to have ma'am here. She is also a recipient of some very important and very famous awards. Some of them are C.V. Raman Mahila Vijnan Puraskar, which was bestowed to her in 2017 by Swadeshi Vijnan Andolan. And ma'am also got the Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose Memorial Award in 2020 by the Science Association in Bengal. So welcome ma'am to this session, and I would request you to go on with your speech. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ma'am, you are audible.
Thank you for your
Yes.
kind introduction. A very good afternoon to all the participants of this webinar and to the invited speakers, Mr. Nick Lowe, Sophie Ross, and the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Adamas University. Today's topic, as decided by UNDP, is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal in a COVID-19 World. The whole world and our nation is experiencing an unprecedented situation prevailing due to the pandemic COVID-19. The pandemic has affected us all physically, mentally, socially, and economically, giving rise to unforeseen reactions. However, it is in the inherent nature of humans to look for alternatives, to adapt, to innovate, and to invent. And where best can we begin but at home? Charity begins at home, they say. So do all adjustments, all adaptations, and home is where a woman's leadership qualities take root, nucleate, and develop. In the context of women's leadership qualities and challenges faced by them to achieve equality, it is important to assert that women are powerful agents of change. Women have increasingly moved towards greater gender equality, both at home and in workplaces over the years. However, COVID-19 has unveiled gender disparity once again in our everyday lives. Women have been worst sufferers of this pandemic situation due to their physical, often economic, and social vulnerability. Child marriage, girl-child dropouts, early marriage, forced pregnancies, domestic violence, marital rape, constraints in job opportunities are some of the eternal disasters affecting the lives of women, which have intensified during the COVID-19 pandemic. The LinkedIn Opportunity Index 2021 shows that 85% of women in India have missed out on a promotion because of their gender. History bears testimony to great women leaders, both in governance and in other domains. In governance, we have illuminating examples of leadership in our own Rani of Jhansi, in Queen Victoria, and in more modern times, Indira Gandhi, Golda Meir, Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel, Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh, Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand, to name only a few. In other domains, for example, activist movements, we have our own Matungini Hajra, who fought in the freedom fight, Rosa Parks, who challenged race segregation, Emmeline Parkhurst, and other women who changed the course of history with their leadership qualities. In the pandemic scenario too, women have been deeply involved in giving effective and meaningful leadership in their respective fields. We have Chandra Datta of Kolkata origin and an MSc from Leeds University, who has played an important role in the Oxford University team as a quality assurance manager in the development of COVID-19 vaccine. Sunita Reddy, the current managing director of Apollo Hospitals, has made exemplary efforts for the containment of virus in India, as well as its treatment by providing dynamic leadership to the Apollo Hospital team. Roshni Nader, the chairperson of HCL Technologies, is one of the 25 businesswomen whose leadership qualities during the COVID battle has been showcased. The list is too long to finish. As an academic administrator, a glowing example of leadership in women during these challenging times that comes foremost to the mind is that of Professor Louise Richardson, the Vice Chancellor of Oxford University. We all know that academics of Oxford University have been contributing to the global search for vaccine and therapeutics to treat the COVID virus. In the words of Professor Richardson, and I quote, "I think we can all take enormous pride in the extent to which we have been able to continue the educational and research mission of the university in spite of the pandemic," unquote. This would not have been possible but for our effective and dynamic leadership. I may add that in a convocation address in India titled Potential for Women, Professor Richardson had said, and I quote once again, "I grew up with 6 siblings, 3 brothers and 3 sisters. I can assure you there is nothing like having 3 brothers to explode the myth of male superiority. The idea that they could do anything I could not, that they were entitled to any privilege I was not, that expectations were different from them than they were for me was completely inconceivable to me. I love my brothers, but there was never any doubt in my mind that they were my equals, nothing more," unquote. Words such as these should inspire us women to face challenging situations such as the pandemic and to achieve an equal status in leadership in a COVID-19 world. Thank you. And I thank the organizers for inviting me to this very special event on this very special day of International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your enlightened comments. And definitely we will have a more into a discussion when we have a Q&A session. Thank you so much, ma'am. One request to the participants here, if you have any comments or questions, you can put it in the chat box. Now, I would like to request Dr. Shamhita Shanyal, Head of Department, Bengali Department, to introduce Dr. Munmun Biswas, Social Activist and Academician, West Bengal State University. Over to Dr. Shamhita.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're loud. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello. Very good afternoon to everyone. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Dr. Munmun Biswas, Social Activist and Academician, West Bengal State University. Dr. Biswas is currently designated as Assistant Professor in Statistics, Brahmananda Keshav Chandra College. She is a social and women rights activist. She is associated with a bi-monthly Bengali women's magazine, Aholla, edited by veteran women activist Dr. Chandana Mitra. Aholla has been published for the last 38 years. She has been working with slum dwellers and unorganized women workers of different parts of Kolkata for the last 10 years. Solidarity School is a kind of network which is operating evening schools for slum children in different slums, which she is associated with. Also, she has been engaged with Domestic Workers' Rights Association for the last 4 years. During the COVID-19 pandemic, last year, all of us heard about the plight of migrant workers all over the country. Migrant Workers Solidarity Network, MWSN, was formed in March of 2020. Through this, the activist could reach out and provide support to more than 80,000 migrant workers in different destination states in India. Dr. Biswas acted as a volunteer in MWSN. Now, I cordially invite Munmun ma'am to deliver her lecture. Over to you, ma'am.
So am I audible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you for this nice introduction and my sincere gratitude to all the plenary speakers of this event of International Women's Day, 8 March 2021. So, and also thanks for giving me this opportunity for the organizers. So, I would like to share my experience as an activist today. So I have a small presentation to make justice with time. So can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Is this visible to
Yeah,
everybody?
it's visible. Yeah, it's visible. It's fine.
Okay. So women in leadership achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. It is the topic of today as decided by United Nations. So I would like to start with why Women's Day. So as it was it was spoken by all the speakers today. So it is International Women's Day. I would like to mention that it is International Working Women Day. It is good to emphasize on the term working women because we know all the women are working and some of their work are recognized or paid and some of their works are not. So this day is not like other days we celebrate, like Valentine's Day, Rose Day, Mother's Day, etc. So this is a historical day, and to all the student participants, and I want them to know the history, the particular history behind this International Women's Day. And as it was mentioned, today is the 110th International Women's Day celebration, as it was first claimed to be celebrated in 1911, and this is 2021. So we can say this is a 110th commemoration of the International Women's Day, and there is a long movement by women in demand of basic rights of equality, and that is the story behind this day. So to mention a few lines, it's the American workers, and it was in 20th century women got the first opportunity to work for the social work sector. All the industries with the industrial revolutions, the revolution was founded, and women got the opportunity for work, for the paid work. And at that time, the condition of work and the working hours was too long, and the condition for work, like the work environment, everything was not very suitable for women. There is a high rate of death to child death, and women were facing harassment in their work, and they had a burden of double burden, triple burden, doing all the home-based work and the like 10 to 12 hours to 16 hours of working day. And also they they often face harassment in their workplace. So the basic demands they shouted for in those days, the American women and all the women of the Western countries today we know as the developed country like United Kingdom, especially in those cities where the industrial city, that day it was the first industrial cities with lot of industries. So their women worker, they first spoke for their rights. So that was the history because of which in 1908, the day was the 8th March was declared as the Women's Day. So, and after that, it began in 1911. In every year internationally, we have started commemorating this day. So this is the story, the historical, why this is a historical day, and we should remember the history. So, and after that, it was a long movement fought by the women, was for their political right. That is what we call the suffrage, the right to vote. And what women realized at that time, that unless and until they have their political rights, their right to freedom of speech, expression, nobody is going to heard their story, their problem. So all the policies which was not inclusive to women that time, and that is why women started shouting or raising their demand for voting rights. And some of us, since it is the School of Liberal Arts and Culture Studies of Adamas University is organizing, everybody should know that even in French Revolution in 1789, which talked first about liberty, fraternity, and equality, at that time women didn't have their voting rights. They in none of the countries that time, women's political right, their right to talk, their right to expression was recognized at that time. And after that, it started. Like after a long movement fought by women, there are very interesting movies there with that history of this suffragette women. So one can see. So this is also this right for political rights, or the right to vote, that was behind the story of the International Women's Day. So today's theme is women in leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. So before going to the theme, so I'd like to look at a few things. Like, so here is a report by World Economic Forum, which is being coming out with reports since 2006 every year. So here is a ranking for our country. I'll be mostly focusing on our country. What is the scenario of women these days? So this is a report for India, where we have in their survey, it is 153 countries, including all the BRIC countries, and they have come out with a ranking on the basis of like gender gap. And one can see this four heads, like economic participation and opportunity is one important head, educational attainment is another important head, health and survival is another head, and political empowerment. Let us consider these first four heads first. So among these 153 countries considered by World Economic Forum in the report of 2020, which is based on the data of 2019, India has ranked 149 out of 153 in case of economic participation and opportunity. So not a very like cheerful story. And also in case of educational attainment for women, it is 112 in 2019 out of this 153. India's rank out of this 153 country. Health and survival even worse. 150 out of 153 countries, which was 147 in 2018, and it has been deteriorated as in 150. And the political empowerment, it is the scenario is little better, or one can say quite okay. Like 18, India has ranked 18 out of 153 countries. So these four things, if you want to like measure today the condition of women in India. So since I would like to say that International Women's Day is not for few women, it is for the emancipation or equal opportunity for all women. So since all this data reports are based on all women of our country, so there is a saddening story, I must say. So and also there are a few other pictures of the reports in terms of participation of workforce. If we see the 2020 data, so nowadays women only 23% of women are participating in a paid work today, or one can say the economic activities, recognized economic activities, and where 77% of male are actually employed, one can say. And even the earlier years, the scenario is not very good. So a few years back, it was 32 to 36%, but now it has declined. So women are not taking participation in the workforce or in economic activity of our country. So what are the reasons behind? One can investigate. So also here are some sectors. So telecom and allied sectors, IT sector, BPO, KPO, ITS, pharmaceutical and healthcare sector. So all these are percentage of women participating in those sectors. So one important sector is missing over here is the agricultural sector. So agriculture is the one large sector where women still is engaged with. So manufacturing sector, all the core sectors, only 7% women are taking part. So we should keep in mind all this scenario, the long way we have to overcome. So what are the obstacles behind before women for not participating in workforce? So one is here are a few reasons one can think of. One is the deep-rooted gender division of labor within family. So many women are not coming out of family for work because of their family burdens, because of the child rearing, all the religion and caste-related customs and rituals, age of marriage, maybe one other potential reasons. There are patriarchal cultural norms in our society. In different states, the scenario may be differing, but on an average, there are norms which are patriarchal and obstacles for women. And women are mostly devoid of their political property rights. We know there's interesting data that is coming out today nowadays that in agricultural sector where 80% of women are working the agricultural work, only 30% of them have the land, are having the land rights. So land rights in India, land property are not entitled to women. And also there are risk of sexual harassment at workplace everywhere. And by mentioning workplace, I am including the educational sector as well, but not only it, even the informal sectors and the vulnerable working conditions with which women are working today. So here is an act I took the opportunity to mention in 2013, which is dealing with the anti-sexual harassment law, prevention, prohibition in the workplace sector. So there are a few obstacles we all know, but still we need to mention. And here is a scenario of political participation, which we found a little better in terms of world ranking. But one can see in the Lok Sabha, in the parliament, women are participating only 14.5%. So all of us should know, out of the 542 MPs, Ministry of Parliament, only 78, this is the last data, 78 are women out of 542. So very, again, not very good a ratio, but we can hope for a betterment. So these are the basic demands what we raise today in women activism. So one is dignified employment to all women. So employment is one thing we all should be, we all must be believing that economic independence is one door towards the actual freedom or freedom to women or independence. Equal wage for equal work, it is also still not the scenario everywhere. In many sectors, especially in informal sectors, women are doing equal work with an equal wage or less wage than men. And maternity security for all women at work. This is also one very important demand. And we know only a few sectors women are getting maternity security. All other sectors women are losing their jobs because of being pregnant or having child. So abolition of all kind of anti-women customs and norms is one important demand, anti-discrimination legislation, and also this is a very old demand, 33% reservation of women at parliament. So we know we have got the 50% reservation in panchayat level election, while talking about women participation in political like decision making, political power or political, yeah. So 33% reservation at parliament, this is what women are demanding for long, but nobody is listening. So this is one thing we should raise our voice in upcoming years. Otherwise we'll get the same parliamentary scenario like 78 women MPs out of 542. So most women today, if we consider all women of our country, so most women of India today is working in agricultural sector, as I mentioned. Though agricultural sector we all know are becoming less profitable every day because of the cost of agriculture and all the structure of agriculture, which is not improving in our country. Still women are left out in this sector, and they are doing the 80% of the job. And sometimes we even many views are there, say farmers are like not women are not farmers. This kind of views our political leaders are coming out with. So unorganized and informal sectors without any kind of legal rights and security, most women are engaged with this unorganized and informal sectors. So they don't have any labor rights like maternity security, all the health security, and none of the security or mostly vulnerable jobs women are doing. While talking about migrant women, we know migration is a very important scenario all over India. People are going one state to another, even outside the country, for job. For migrant women, they are mostly invisible. So in this pandemic scenario, as mentioned, we are associated with a network called MWSN, Migrant Workers Solidarity network, where we found women are very difficult to reach out because of their because of the technical reason. They are often not operating with smartphones or like digital platforms. Women are avoiding still these days because of lack of education, lack of opportunity maybe. So we have plantation workers. We know tea garden workers are mostly women all over the India. So they are still deprived of minimum sustainable wage in our country. So there is a big sector called care workers. Women are from starting from domestic work to caring old age people, and the nursing sector, the ASHA worker, ICDS worker, who played an important. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you have 2 more minutes, ma'am.
Okay, so these are the sectors women are mostly engaged today. Here is a picture of invisibility of work of women. So, so coming to the topic, in a post-COVID-19 scenario of India, as many of the speakers today mentioned, there are dropouts of education and dropouts from education, and the rate has increased, especially for the girl child. And we have found incidences of early marriages within this 2020. Incidents of trafficking and the domestic violence. So in case of online education, there are pros and cons. In one way, it is opening lots of opportunity for the online platform for education, and also for many it is the lack of equipments and the internet connection. Many of the children are like dropping out. So online jobs and often the cyber platforms are not very safe for women. So we are also improving with our cyber laws, and but there are good part of it: increased work opportunity for women from home, and maybe increased accessibility of resources for few women. So women in leadership is another part of today's topic. So what I would like to mention, women have proved themselves whenever they have given their opportunity. From Kadambini Ganguly to Mitali Raj, everybody know that Kadambini Ganguly with Anandibai Joshi was the first South Asian doctor who passed the MBBS course, and Vitali Raj was the our captain for the women cricket team. I'm not sure whether she is still the captain. So Soumya Shaminathan is the chief scientist of WHO. So all through this pandemic year, we have seen her many times, her face leading the nation with all the health norms. People should all the disciplines one should mention. All the healthcare workers have led during this pandemic year. Our ASHA workers, ICDS workers, they are part of our care workers. They have played the role of frontline workers in between. And also existing division of labor in the job market has broken a little bit. I think I should mention within this period. So because many restructuring happened, so I can see many women are taking part in like sectors or jobs which are not like entitled to women. Mostly male are doing that, like Uber driver you can mention too, and many more. So there are movements all over India, and women has come out to be the leaders of the movement, like anti-rape movement from 2013. One should the Nirbhaya incidents. Everybody of us learned from it. There's a Me Too movement going on, and women are speaking out their voice. There's a movement called Pinjra Tod movement, breaking the hostel locks. Like there is in many university in Delhi and around, there are deadlines for women of 6 p.m. to come back to the hostel, while the male students are accessing the library over the night. So women students have raised their voice, and the deadline were losing. So anti-Physique movement, and Muslim women we saw in 2019, they led the anti-CA NRC movement. Women farmers are protesting, and also there are movements of protest going on for the against the patriarchal comments made by many politicians and chief justice. So so in that sense, women are leading in every sector and towards the change, I should mention. And so I believe change is the only constant, and wish you all a better and discrimination-free and equally privileged future society. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murman. Thank you so much. We have one more speaker for the day, Professor Sushma Yadav. We are just waiting for ma'am to join. I think there is some technical glitch which is happening from the other side. Just bear with us for 2 minutes. We will get back to you. So in meantime, if you have any question and queries to any of our guest speakers, you can unmute your mic or you can put your question in the chat box. Dr. Jhili ma'am, we are just waiting for ma'am to connect. She's already there. Just one more minute. Good afternoon, Professor Sushma ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible to you?
Good afternoon. Yeah. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, there was some technical issues, and I know you had a very busy schedule. And thank you so much for joining it finally. I know you are traveling. You are in the car. We can see it. Sorry for the inconvenience. Yeah, ma'am.
All right.
So I'll just
keep my video off, because otherwise, everyone's head moves. With my vehicle. So I'll.
Yes, ma'am. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. So I'll request Dr. Jhili Tiwari to introduce Professor Sushma Yadav. Over to you, Jhili.
Sure. I'll start with a very, very short poem by Sasha Stimarte. A woman with a book and a pen has the power to move nations. A woman with a mind and a voice has the power to change worlds. It is a great honor to introduce one such woman, Professor Sushma Yadav. Let me give you a short introduction about her. Professor Sushma Yadav is presently Vice Chancellor of Bhagat Phul Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Sonipat, Haryana, and a member of Press Council of India. Prior to this, she was the Pro-Vice Chancellor Gandhi National Open University. She was the Professor of Public Policy Governance at Indian Institute of Public Administration. She was the member of University Grant Commission, Chair Professor of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Chair at IIPA. A topper of Delhi University, Professor Sushma Yadav has published several research papers. Professor Yadav has authored and edited more than 12 books. She's a member of Academic Council, Executive Council of various central and state university, also member of Ethic Committees of AIIMS and Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital. Professor Yadav is a recipient of a number of prestigious awards, such as Rai Bahadur Gauri Shankar Memorial Medal and Maharshi Karve Memorial Prize. She has also visited a number of countries like China, USA, Germany, Spain, Peru, Chile, Nepal, and Bangladesh for academic, administrative, and training assignment. I cordially invite Professor Yadav to share her views. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Biswas, for a very, very beautiful introduction. I would say it was short and sweet, but really meaningful. And I am really moved by your words. So if we have the pen and the notebook, and we have the ideas and the voice, sure we can move the world. And COVID-19 has been witness to this. I'll start with this. The Vice Chancellor of Adamas University, the Chancellor of Adamas University, Professor Samit Ray, the Vice Chancellor of the university. Her name is not there in this book. But the British Deputy High Commissioner in Kolkata, Mr. Nick Law, who's inaugurated the webinar, Professor Anuradha Mukhopadhyay, Vice Chancellor, Diamond Harbour Women's University, Calcutta, Miss Sophie Ross, Deputy Head, British High Commissioner, New Delhi, the Deputy Head of Political and Bilateral Affairs, and all the organizers and the participants of this webinar today. I wish to wish you International Women's Day, my compliments and good wishes on this great day when we are all celebrating the womanhood. The most beautiful part of today is that one day we celebrate the essence of womanhood, being a woman, and then of course rights and duties of women. And I must compliment Adamas University for thinking about this and collaborating with British High Commissioner, because that makes it as global as possible in the given time. COVID-19 has really connected the world. It first connected us in crisis. Nobody could think before a virus starting from China, small town, going to the great town of Italy, Venice and Milan, and then moving on to the entire world, would move the world like this. We all squeezed into our homes and spaces, but the horizons widened. And through net, through technology, we connected to the world. That's something very, very remarkable. But this webinar also brought out a lot of challenges for women around us, or for the women in us, and the women in leadership positions. I wish to share through this. I really wish to share through this. We were a women's university, and still we have been able to house in our university Corona warriors. We also had Corona care giver. We also had a COVID care center, and thankfully we could accommodate them all, but we came out victorious. And I really thank my colleagues for this, and I really thank the women colleague who were really instrumental in keeping this, that we proved to be the best COVID care center in the entire district. That is my salute to the women leaders, or women who have been managers, and women who've been homemakers everywhere. COVID also moved us homewards. I'm not going into the data at the moment because the data must have been shared by now by so many of our, I would say, well-known and well-recognized speakers over there with you. But I would like to say that COVID-19 gave us an opportunity to look within also. It gave us an opportunity to understand the leaders within and the leaders outside. The women emerged as leaders out of this because when everyone moved home, it was very difficult to manage in an time, in a critical time, in a time of disease and time of fear, time of distancing, time of uncertainty. But we women made it possible. India was doomed by the entire world that India will once get into it, it will be difficult for them to get out. It's the mothers, it's the wives, it's the sisters, it's the women who really made it possible that we came out of this crisis till now. The homes became celebrating places. The homes became places where you would console each other and care for each other. And homes also became places where you support each other. The women came out of jobs, but work from home became their passion. There were special portals for them. There were special works for them. And there were special qualities which we could recognize in our own selves. You can see number of entrepreneurs coming out of this crisis, number of innovative ideas and of innovative ventures coming out of this. And I think this is one time, and I compliment you for selecting this topic because this Women's Year, this Women's Day must celebrate the women who were extraordinary, the woman who was ordinary but still extraordinary, and the women who could lead in an extraordinary way. Be it a state, be it a nation. VC साहब क्या चलो पूछो. Sorry, I'm giving the direction in between for the next program. उनके आप ऑफिस चलिए. So I think this Women's Year, we must all compliment this power of the women to emerge victorious and stronger out of a crisis like COVID-19. And the years to come will see us celebrate these qualities essentially much more, and also provide opportunities to women in different fields and in different areas. I wish there are case studies, there are researches coming out of this year of crisis, and we must have books and volumes to celebrate all those women who led the world, who led their own functioning places, working places, homes in this critical time or these critical times. Finally, I think I would like to say that one woman can make a difference to a large number of people around her. So that woman must be saluted today, and that womanhood must be celebrated. Let us enjoy the roles that we have been given or entrusted, but we must all enjoy this. And thankfully, world has given this opportunity. Friends, I wish to thank my old dear student, Pallavi. Earlier, she was my doctoral student who put me through for this program. And I wish to thank Vice Chancellor of Adamas University and Dr. Munmun Biswas, who introduced me, and all of you who've been waiting to celebrate this International Women's Year. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and all my good wishes for the university and for celebrating this great time, and for all of you who have made it possible to celebrate the women leaders during COVID time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for taking out the time from a big, busy schedule. We are really indebted for your kind gesture to participate. And definitely, if time permits and the opportunity allows us, we will definitely invite you to another occasion. And because what I feel and what the school feels that the Women's Day is every day. We are just marking an occasion not to miss the opportunity to celebrate on special days. Like it's a birthday, so we are indeed meeting and greeting each other to, in fact, highlight the achievements and the success of the women and the womanhood.
Indeed.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. And do convey my apologies for giving a short time, but my greetings to the entire university, fraternity and sisterhood.
Definitely, ma'am. Definitely. And just to let you know that we will definitely, since that schedule was a little tight, we will definitely look forward to you in the future. Thank you, ma'am. So I hope I'm audible. Anyone can confirm, please?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you so much. So with this session from Professor Sushma Yadav, Vice Chancellor from Sonipat, Haryana, we come to a concluding session of the lectures and the speeches from the guests. Now we move forward to the question and answer sessions. So if anyone has any questions directed to any particular speaker, you may ask. Before that, I have received one question on from Dr. Samhita.
Jitendra,
Yes,
first of all, I don't think speakers are there anymore. They all have left.
Let me check, sir. Just 1 minute, sir. I think Professor Dr. Munmun Viswas, ma'am, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah, so she's there. The question is in fact directed to her only. This question is from Dr. Dr. Shamhita. And the question says, in my family, we subscribe to Ahalya for a long time. Will you please share where this magazine is different from other typical women lifestyle magazine? Dr. Munmun, you can have your comments on this question. This is a question by Dr. Shamhita, Head of Department, Bengali Language and Literature.
So since Shamhita, you have subscribed Ahulla for long, so you yourself must say, because it's not a lifestyle magazine. Ahulla is talking for 38 years about women empowerment, what we mean about that, and all the structural discrimination in our society we are having towards women. So we need to hit to those structures. So we have to find out the basic fundamentals discriminating source. So that is what Ahulla is talking about, and all the international movements where women are shouting for the change, and all the countries the backward, in sense of women, women leadership, the backward countries are also changing, and a lot of women are actually agent of change. Many speakers today mentioned. So those are the points. All the outstanding women who took part in the freedom struggle in our history, starting from Gargi Moitri. Some of the administrator of this university has mentioned their name, and after that freedom struggle and all the upcoming changes towards society brought by those women who have come out with different views, all the contribution to science, starting from science to athletics, and all the disciplinary fields, from literature to culture. Women are contributing. All those roles are being highlighted in Ahulla. So that much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Munmun. I hope this provides a perspective to Dr. Shamhita. Any comment or any remark from anyone from this panel? There are lots of students who are there and who are also studying feminism, women, gender roles. So guys, you have any question or queries to any of, or you want to say anything, you are welcome. Because we are actually on time, we have a few minutes to say.
Jitendra sir, I have just a question.
Ma'am, this is again a question to Dr. Munmun. If you can, Dr. Munmun, you're there.
Yes. Yes.
It's a question from Ankita Patra. She's saying that kindly throw some light in change in paradigm in study of women in leadership in post-COVID era. The
Change
changing
in paradigm in the study. So are you talking about the women studies or the research on women issues?
I think so.
Yes.
Miss Ankita, would you like to explain what?
Yeah, she has mentioned yes. So yeah, women studies. I am actually academically I am not a person of women studies. So, but I am in touch with all the advanced studies. But yes, women leaderships, all the a few movement I have mentioned about all this Me Too movement and movement against the violence or sexual violence towards women, and those are led by women, and also the issues like everyday discrimination and the cultural sexism in our everyday life. Those are the topic those should be the topic, because women have come out with they have proved their ability in all the fields. So, and also there are breakthrough issue all over the country, all the protests going on about women agency. These are the part of the study which has been included in the women studies, I believe. But I'm not very sure, because I am not an expert of women studies department. I am an activist, and with that I keep in touch with all the research papers. So,
okay, thank you so much. But again, there is something a little academically oriented question has been asked by Dr. Bakulika Dattagupta, Department of English Language and Literature. And this is, maybe you can share your experience as an activist and what is your perception. She asked, what do you think in the next phase of feminism?
so
And how far are we prepared for it?
Yeah, I think she is talking about the wave of feminism. Since we had the first wave of feminism in the beginning of 20th century, and after that 1960 onwards there was a second wave. So many people are nowadays talking about third wave feminism or fourth wave feminism. So I believe it will take time. Yes, definitely the talking about sexism. Nowadays, feminism is anti-sexism. So bell hooks, feminists like bell hooks has defined feminism in a different way. Also, their definition of feminism is also, there are more than one way to define it. There are school of feminism thought, like radical feminism to socialist feminism to liberal feminism. So I think we should follow the women movement and the changing society. I am not sure whether this is a third wave or fourth wave. Definitely many issues has come out after the first two waves, and it will take time to define or frame another wave of feminism to make it precise academically. That much I can say.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you indeed. I hope that was the last question from the participants. Just to share to everyone and those who are just joined the second session, there was in the morning session, we had a poster competition among the students of Adamas University. And there were few topics which they presented, and that was quite eloquent, and the way they presented was quite passionate and emphatic. What they wanted to say, what they wanted to say, not only as a representation or a representative of a woman or a girl, but also the passion, the information, the knowledge which they wanted to gain from the society. So apart from this presentation, we also had a creative stuff to represent what exactly and how they celebrate Women's Day or International Women's Day. So I hand over the mic to Dr. Deepikanta to declare the winners of the poster competition, which happened today in the first half noon. Dr. Deepikanta, are you there? Dr. Deepikanta, are you there? You may please unmute your mic and speak.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Hi. Yes, you're audible, loud and clear. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay. We had a poster competition today from 11 a.m. So here we are declaring the result. I, on behalf of the School of Liberal Arts and Cultural Studies, announce that Priyanshi Garodia, Ahana Basu, Pallavi Vishwas, and Shruti Kanwal. These are the few names which are coming. So the first place goes to Pallavi Vishwas and Shruti Kanwal from Psychology Department.
Guys, I think you can unmute your mic if the mic allows to clap for them, or you can have a virtual clap for them.
Pallavi Vishwas and Shruti Kanwal from Psychology. And to the Psychology Department as well. Okay. The next is not so behind, Priyanshi Garodia.
Deepikanta ma'am, just 1 minute. Rana Prata, can you unmute everyone, please, to celebrate the success of these students?
I have already provided them the access.
Okay, guys, you can unmute yourself and you can just give a virtual clapping to them. Thank you. Okay. Over to you, Deepikanta, please.
Yeah. The next is Priyanshi Garodia from Sociology Department. Priyanshi, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much to all the professors.
Priyanshi, you can show your face so that we can recognize the winner. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. Next, ma'am.
And the last but not the least, Ahana Basu from the Department of Political Science.
Yes.
Ahana.
Ahana, are you there?
Ahana, are you there? Ahana, are you there? Okay,
Ahana,
big thanks and congratulations to Political Science Department as well.
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay,
we can hear
congratulations,
Thank
Ahana.
you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Jitendra, it's a poster competition.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you share the posters?
Right now, it's
by which I can enrich myself.
Okay, Dr. Shaheli or Dr. Pallavi, would you mind sharing if it is available on your desktop?
Not with us. Sorry, sir, it's there still with the students, but we will make it a point that we'll get it back from the students and circulate it to everyone in the SOLACS.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Okay. So that I hope, Dr. Deepikanta, that's what's from your side.
All the presenters, those who have presented the poster, are requested to, share their presentation with Jitendra sir from Political Science Department. All the poster presenters are requested to share the poster with Jitendra sir from Political Science Department.
Okay,
thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Deepikanta. Thank you, and congratulations, guys, and you have participated in the presentation at the same time the poster. Now it's a time of vote of thanks. So,
excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to intervene in between. I guess everyone in the SOLACS will agree with me that we all, especially me, I really want to say thanks to Professor Jyoti Gupta, who has stood as the strongest women for all of us, an ideal from Team SOLACS. Ma'am has showed very strong leadership. She has guided us in all the ways she could. She has shown the path of light, that how we need to work. And I would request Jyoti ma'am to please share her views today. Jyoti ma'am.
Ma'am, is there, ma'am? You can unmute yourself, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you can unmute. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this privilege and for holding for women in our country still. It's not our country only, but the world over. It is still uphill task, and it's been it is a very difficult way in which during the pandemic and otherwise they have to manage the entire situation. And so that is one big thing. The other is from my personal experience of having been disabled at the year when I was just 21 and just out of college, and now it's so many years. It has been a very difficult thing, but I have had around me family, friends, colleagues, and now at Adamas, I have an entire set of colleagues who are so very appreciative and so very wonderful. So it's the world around you which makes the difference, and that is why awareness of women's issues becomes an important part of the celebration of Women's Day. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. And we wish you a happy International Women's Day. Every day will be celebrated as a... Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. If Professor Moitri is there, Professor Moitri Bardhan Roy, ma'am, are you there? We would like to hear from you as well. Any faculty members, any student, you have to say anything, you can go ahead. You can be given 1 or 2 minutes to speak. Because it's your day and we are celebrating together. So if you have anything to say, you are very much welcome to share your opinion. Okay, let me represent you guys and speak on your behalf. First of all, thank you for allowing me to host the event and to talk about the event about International Women's Day. So it's also a symbolic representation that when we talk about the Women's Day, the role of men also becomes important. I was discussing today with some of my colleagues that why we need law, because there is some problem. Why we need men, because they are the problem. I'm not saying, in general I'm talking about, but we have to teach not only the girl child, but also the male child in the family when we talk about women empowerment. So right now we had a long discussive session from 3 p.m. onwards, and thank you everyone for patience listening, asking questions, thinking, contemplating, deliberating, discussing, and actually was what Professor Sushma Yadav made, that collaborating with the British Council actually made the event global. So it is indeed a pleasure, and I would like to thank Professor Samvit Ray, Chancellor, Adamas University, Professor Naveen Das, Vice Chancellor, Adamas University, Pro-Vice Chancellors, Dean of Schools, Professor Mrityunjay Chatterjee, Dean School of Liberal Arts and Culture Studies, Head of Departments, my colleagues, my department colleagues, my dear students, and if anyone is joining from outside, I thank you everyone for being such a patient listening, and to be a part of this collaborative event between the Adamas University School of Liberal Arts and Culture Studies and British High Commission, Kolkata, India. So now it's a time. What is the takeaway message from here? We have to deliberate, we have to discuss, and we have to find a new direction or a better direction to empower ourselves and empower the female which is there in our life, in family, at home, at office, in the state, in the society, in the nation, and in the world. Thank you so much, and I wish you a very happy International